Evacuations have been halted in Afghanistan as two suicide bombings outside of Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul turned an already dramatic situation into a nightmare. This just one day after the administration described U.S. efforts as nothing but a success. We'll take a look at the latest from Afghanistan in tonight's Hold the Line.
It's a hard day today. As you know, two suicide bombers, assessed to have been ISIS fighters, detonated in the vicinity of the Abbey Gate at Hamid Karzai International Airport and in the vicinity of the Baron Hotel, which is immediately adjacent. The attack on the Abbey Gate was followed by a number of ISIS gunmen who opened fire on civilians and military forces. At this time, we know that 12 U.S. service members have been killed in the attack and 15 more service members have been injured.
Welcome to Hold the Line. I'm Buck Sexton. That was Marine Corps General Kenneth McKenzie describing the events today at Karzai International Airport in Kabul. Here's where we stand, and keep in mind that we're getting new information and there's more numbers coming in every hour about exactly how many casualties and what's gone on here. At least 12 U.S. servicemen killed, at least 60 Afghan civilians killed, and 143 wounded. Those are likely to go up. Unfortunately, as you know, deaths and casualties only go up in these kinds of cases. And this is what we've been worried about. There was threat reporting yesterday. They said a very specific, very clear threat about what was going to be happening at the possibility of what could happen at the airport, which we've now seen. The deployment of multiple suicide bombers into crowds that had gathered around Kabul airport. And it seems they also specifically went to areas where they could get into close contact with members of the United States military to try to have military casualties as well as civilian, mostly Afghan casualties. Here is Marine Corps General McKenzie saying that the U.S. and Taliban forces, you heard that right, share a common purpose.
U.S. military and the Taliban have been coordinating very closely on various things. Do you still trust the Taliban, and is it possible that they let this happen?
So as to whether or not they let it happen, I don't know. I don't think there's anything to convince me that they let it happen. As to whether or not I trust them, that's not necessarily that's a word I use very carefully. You've heard me say before, it's not what they say, it's what they do. They have a practical reason for wanting us to get out of here by the 31st of August, and that's that they want to reclaim the airfield. We want to get out by that day too, if it's going to be possible to do so. So we share a common purpose.
Share a common purpose in getting us out of there. That's interesting because as we understand the situation on the ground to be deteriorating from a security perspective, there are very real questions about who's responsible for this. Did the Taliban turn a blind eye to this? Are they going to act as though there's some plausible level of deniability for them, but they can continue to let suicide bombers infiltrate? Let's remember that just last week, the Biden administration said that any attacks, clearly that's what this was today, on U.S. forces would receive a swift response.
We're particularly focused on our engagements on making sure every American who wants to leave can get to the airport. Where we have been seeing challenges with Americans for Americans, we have thus far been able to resolve them. We've made clear to the Taliban that any attack on our forces or disruption of our operations at the airport will be met with swift and forceful response.
We'll see what that response may be. Right now, it looks as though the situation is likely to get worse, as now you have those crowds that had been massing and all the people that have had to deal with this. Those crowds are going to have to be prepared for the possibility of further infiltration by suicide bombers, which means that the security situation is going to be even more tense, and we could see additional casualties in the days ahead. The U.S. is not really calling the shots here. That's the big problem. The U.S. is not able to provide security for people not only on their way to the airport, but on the perimeter of Kabul airport. We are reliant on the Taliban